therefore, as far as I'm concerned, endorsed a far-right British organisation called Britain First by sharing with his millions of followers on social media some incidents that claim to show Muslims acting abusively. At least one has been, I understand, now written off as a fake news story that came out of Holland. The other two are fairly old. The fundamental point is, why on earth is the President of the United States retweeting any kind of material from a British far-right organisation? Britain First was founded in 2011 by former members of the far-right British National Party, and Jada Franson, who has conviction herself for hate crimes, was the person who you heard in that clip, who thanked the President for retweeting our material. Their upfront message, if you like, essentially is they want to rid this country in particular of Islam. They don't want mosques built. They don't want any mosques in this country. They're really not particularly happy with any of it. And their position, I don't think it would be a journalistic hyperbole to state that they are, and much of what they tweet about, write about, opine about is very much in the extremities of right-wing thinking. And some of it, of course, has been deemed illegal. Members of that organisation who've been nabbed, nicked, arrested and charged for crimes that relate to that. We know that Downing Street have disowned all of this and said that it was wrong it wasn't a particularly... It was a sort of a vicar's response, if you like. It was very bad what Mr. Trump did. Could have had a little bit more outrage in there, but I guess that was the measure. Theresa May's spokesman said Britain First used hateful narratives which peddle lies and stoke tensions. Jeremy Corbyn called retweets abhorrent and dangerous. Now, there's a few little rules and regulations on Twitter. If you retweet something, doesn't mean you're endorsing it. Blah, blah, blah. We get all of that. However, this is the President of the United States. If ever there was a single moment, and I've vaguely defended Donald Trump on just one point, that I don't believe he's an Islamophobe. I think as recently as this week, the term Islamophobe, if we take it to mean people who fundamentally have a problem with anyone who's a Muslim, I didn't think his travel ban idea came under that banner. I thought that was just mischief when he talked about trying to find out what's going on in certain elements of political Islamism. I didn't think that made him an Islamophobe. This, however, I think does. I think this goes straight to the guts of everything. This is the President of the United States retweeting material from a shoddy shower of shocking characters in what was the British National Party, now called Britain First. They were the words shouted out by the killer of Joe Cox, by the way, in case you are not used to or in case you're trying to remember where you last heard that phrase, Britain First. 0345 6060 973. Is Donald Trump fit to be leader of the free world, fit to be leader of the United States? I think this is genuinely shocking. And we now have people who, I think once upon a time, would have been seen as fairly sympathetic to Trump, even supporters of Trump. I heard Piers Morgan speaking with Ian Dale earlier on LBC. Morgan has almost gone out of his... It's been painful sometimes to see him defending Trump, but on this, he said no, he's as bad as the rest of them unless he retracts it. And the curious thing, at 8 minutes past 10 UK time on a Wednesday evening, those tweets are still on Donald Trump's Twitter wall. They still exist. They're still on the feed. They've not been taken down. You can imagine Donald Trump digging his heels in on this one. He's not about to remove them, it seems. And as we sit here right now, they remain exactly where they were when it was first announced, I suppose, or first realised by the world that he had done this. His spokesman was very quick to point out that actually, this is just a tweet. It doesn't necessarily mean that these are his views, etc. He is the President of the United States. You can't divorce that fact from the kind of things that are being tweeted here. Somebody on Facebook made this point. Darren Brown says, funny how the media are having a bit of a fest over these tweets, but choose to ignore the very content of them, all because some group was deemed far right. Well, that isn't the case. The content of what is shown in, I think one of them has been deemed to be fake, but the other two, which are fairly old clips, by the way, I think I remember seeing those 6 or 7 years ago, are one looks like some kind of ISIS attack on a person, and the other is a Muslim gent destroying or smashing a statue of the Virgin Mary. But regardless of the content, that isn't the point of the content. The point of this is that Donald Trump is retweeting material from a British far-right organisation whose leader has a conviction itself for hate crimes. That's the problem with this. The problem that Donald Trump thinks it's okay to do that is a problem. And that does put him into, I think, territory where a political leader, and I appreciate that one of the alleged attractions to Donald Trump was that he's not like the others. He goes off-piste. He tells it like it is. He says what he feels. He doesn't go by the script. He shuns the advisors. He speaks from the heart. He speaks off the hoof. And all of that is supposedly the reason why he's now sitting in the White House. Nonetheless, for anyone to not conclude that this is a grave error on behalf, at a difficult time as well, on behalf of the leader of the free world, the United States of America, this is not an error? Come on, this is right up there as an error. This is not just, it's only Twitter, it's just a couple of retweets that have been seen by Lord knows how many people, and compounds rather unsavoury belief, a generalisation, something that I think most intelligent, right-minded people would wish to absolutely disassociate themselves from. 18,000 people have been privy to the retweet from Donald Trump, it's been liked 18,000 times. What a total of about 50,000 or so people so far have liked and retweeted Donald Trump's videos from Jada Franson, who is the leader of Britain First, or deputy leader rather, of Britain First. We know what they stand for. We know what their views are. They are not, as a party, illegal, I should say. There are those that are within it and have been connected to it that I think I'm on safe ground to say have found themselves at the wrong end of the law. But in a case such as this, the President of the United States retweeting material from an organisation such as this, frankly, is not, to coin the phrase, a good look. Harrison is in Exeter. What are your thoughts, Harrison, on this one? Evening.
Evening, Ian. So my point was that I haven't seen the actual content of the tweets that he retweeted from Britain First. But my point was that maybe what we ought to do is probably take the tweets by their content rather than their author, if that makes sense. So, I mean, for instance, if they were racist or Islamophobic, then certainly that's something to judge Donald Trump by. Mm-hmm. But if it does turn out that, for instance, that they were not Islamophobic or racist, but people are saying, oh, well, it came from Britain First, therefore we ought to judge him, well, that doesn't make sense, because just because they may have said things in the past, you're looking at the individual views. You know, that would be like judging someone based on what food they like, because last week they said they liked a certain food, and then comparing that to political views. So what I'm saying is,
it's a far-right organisation that has a pretty much universal hatred of Muslims.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
and Donald Trump is retweeting them.
Yes, but what I'm saying is if they, for instance, if they've been Islamophobic in the past, that is bad. Of course it is, and that does say something about the organisation. But what obviously Donald Trump didn't know who Britain First was when he was retweeting. He probably just read the tweet and retweeted the tweet. So I'm saying probably look at the tweet and say, is the actual content? I mean, I haven't seen it, but probably look at the tweet and say, is the actual content itself Islamophobic or racist? And then judge Donald Trump by that.
Well, I think that would make, you're right, if he was retweeting something. These are videos of incidents. One, I think, is deemed to be fake anyway, and the other two are pretty old and show... one is an attack from what looks like some ISIS supporters doing something to a horrible boy. It looks like a Middle Eastern kind of video, and it's incredibly violent. That's the other thing. I'm not sure why a president would want to be retweeting that kind of thing. You do wonder what point he's trying to make by retweeting it. Somebody being thrown off a building. Because to me, that's like the president saying, this is what these people do. This is what... These are the kind of people I've been trying to tell you about.
Oh, well, I mean, right, well, okay, well, obviously that appropriates that. I mean, I didn't see them, but I mean, all I'm saying is the general principle of it is to judge it by the individual tweet.
But that would be if you were retweeting it, I could see that, and I know what you're saying. But if it's the president, shouldn't a president be really careful what they read? It's very hard, bearing in mind Donald Trump's backstory on this, to not look at that and think, this is the kind of organisation that Donald Trump would support.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, obviously, I agree with you there. I mean, I think obviously that he's incredibly sort of ill-advised and not a lot more careless than, say, like, I don't know, like the Obamas or even British prime ministers. You know, and clearly his administration's very sort of orientates around him, so that does get him into trouble. But I mean, I agree with you there, Ian.
OK, Harrison, thank you very much indeed for that. 0345 6060 973. We know that the deputy leader of the organisation has herself been convicted for abusing a Muslim woman in a hijab. We know that this is not, I would argue and contend, an organisation that is attempting to have an intelligent and measured debate about integration or ISIS. I don't believe this is an organisation packed with great brains whose Quranic knowledge is enough for us to bring them to the table to have a progressive discussion on what we do about certain issues in this country where social cohesion isn't working. These are the last people I would go to for that. More of your comments on this in just 1 second. And by the way, there's the state visit of Donald Trump to come as well. What are your thoughts on that? 0345 6060 973. Downing Street says Trump was wrong. Jeremy Corbyn says Trump was wrong. It's an anti-Muslim video from a British far-right group. What the heck is the President of the United States doing, even going anywhere near this kind of material, let alone retweeting it for his millions of followers to see? 0345 6060 973.
This is LBC at home with Ian Dale at Drive.
People who can't afford to buy an affordable house, they look for a council house, and yet the number of houses that are being built in that sector are pathetic.
Leading Britain's conversation, Ian Dale at Drive, only on LBC.
At Homebase, we want you to challenge us on price. Our brand new range of kitchens from Kit and Caboodle are at low prices every day, so you don't have to wait for the sales. And if you buy a new kitchen now, you can have it delivered before Christmas. We're confident you won't find better value on kitchens. Book a free kitchen design appointment today. Homebase, always low prices.
Successful investing can seem like a bit of a mystery, but many ordinary people have now learned how to use the stock markets to earn a second income without a second job. Online Trading Academy has taught thousands of people how to use its approach over 2 decades. The face-to-face workshops are delivered by down-to-earth presenters using know-how from financial institutions and outlines the plan to make profits, whether the markets go up or down. Whether you want to retire in style, put kids through university, or just increase your income, today Online Trading Academy London is offering a free investing kit so you can start learning how to improve your finances. No prior knowledge is necessary. Just go to otalondon.com or call 0800 088 5462 and get 2 free videos and a helpful guide. Plus, you can sign up for a free half-day workshop near you right now to help you learn how to change your financial life. Call 0800 088 5462. That's 0800 088 5462.
Ambitious and determined to succeed?
Study for a 2-year degree at GSM London for just £12,000.
Accelerated degrees are a great way to progress your career faster.
And they're awarded by Plymouth University.
February places are available at our Greenford and Greenwich campuses.
Enrol before January 15th.
Text GSM to 66777.
Or visit gsmlondon.ac.uk.
GSM London.
Have bold dreams.
Special offer, conditions apply.
Jack here has got Kev on the phone. As a PlusNet customer, he has lots of friendly people that have his back. Say hi, Kev.
Hi, Kev. Hi?
He can call PlusNet any day of the week. They've already helped him pick a package, upgrade a package, check bills, move home, give him matrix, ordered SIMs, transferred numbers, added buttons, checked his connection speed. And Julie here even helped him settle on Mallorca for his next family holiday.
Don't forget the factor 30.
PlusNet has lots of friendly staff that just can't help but help. It's probably why they've bagged Uswitch as Best Provider for Customer Service Award. PlusNet will do you proud.
Do you realise we've been on the phone for over an hour? It's crazy we can't talk all night. One of us has to hang up first. Yeah, well, I'm not going to. No, you hang up. No, you. No, you. No, you. Hello? Hello? Oh, she has.
With Vodafone Pay As You Go One, you can stay in touch as much as you like and never pay more than £1 a day. The rest is on us, so you'll only ever have to hang up when you're ready. Search Vodafone Pay As You Go One. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Opt in and spend £1 a day for unlimited standard calls and text plus 500 meg of data in the UK and our Europe zone. Terms and exclusions at vodafone.co.uk/pay-as-you-go-one.
Late Nights with Ian Collins on LBC.
Michael on Facebook, facts are just that. The mainstream media owned by the money men. Oh, God. Do not show it because it goes against their agenda. I think he's talking about the kind of material in some of these videos. I've shown material of all sorts of public abuse from all sorts of different groups, whoever it happens to be. The person in the supermarket abusing the young Muslim girl, the young Muslim guy abusing the young girl driving her car because he didn't like how she was parked or something. I've done all of that, sharing angst and jip and hassle and argument. That isn't what we're talking about here. That's not the same thing. Nobody is suggesting there aren't wrong-uns amongst us. Nobody is suggesting that political Islamism isn't an issue. Nobody is suggesting that there aren't integration problems. That isn't the debate here. My contention is that Britain First are absolutely not the default one-stop shop to go to if you want to have an intellectual debate about any of these things. In fact, they're the last people I would wish to pitch up with in a discussion about how we get over certain integration, immigration-based issues. I don't think that's their methodology. I don't think that's what they're all about, frankly. 0345 6060973. Somebody here says, stop sticking your head in the sand. Thank God for people like Jada and Trump. Most people think like Britain First. They just dare not say it due to being called racist when they are not, just as their name says, they want to put Britain first. Brilliant. Let's go to James in South Yorkshire. Hi.
Hi there. I just want to call up really. I myself am actually a former member of Britain First.
Okay.
I left Britain First about 3-4 months ago now. In regards to the Trump tweet...
Why did you leave them, by the way? Oh, hang on. Tell me why you joined them firstly, James.
Yeah, well, I joined them really because I'm from Rotherham myself and we all know about the Rotherham scandal.
Right.
Yeah, I was walking through town and the first time Britain First marched through, I didn't know what they were about. I looked at their videos, started supporting, and then I signed up to be an activist. And then that's how it started, really. So I've been there for about 18 months or so.
Right, and then you quit. Why?
Yeah, the reason why I quit was because, really, it's a lot less political than you'd think. It's a lot more financial because every so often, Paul and Jada will send out an email through, basically to all their supporters, saying that their offices have been evicted or something like that. When in reality, that's not the case. They don't have any offices. It's just Paul with his laptop.
So then,
just asking.
So you felt that there was they were being disingenuous in the way they were trying to raise funds, which I'm sure they were trying to raise funds for their legal political reasons, but you didn't like the way that they were trying to or the stories they were given in order to raise that money. What about the Trump point then? We have Donald Trump now retweeting material from a far right organisation.
To be honest, I don't see that much wrong with it, because if you look at what Trump says and what Britain First say, there's not a major difference. If Donald Trump were British, he'd probably be quite high ranking in Britain First, to be fair.
What would you say, then, Britain First stood for, James? If you had to kind of define it, somebody said, what is Britain First? What is their goal?
I say the main goal of Britain First is to do what they can do to put out their view, because as I said, they are, to be honest, looking back, they are Islamophobic, and they don't want to see Islam be banned in the UK. Because we're so worried about terrorism and the rise of ISIS. And
I mean, what percentage, if you had to hazard a guess, what percentage of Muslims in the UK do you think are active terrorists?
I'm not able to give too much of an educated guess, but what I do know is, as you know, because ISIS are getting beaten up quite badly in Syria and Iraq now, a lot of the former ISIS fighters are trying to return to the UK. And some of them are coming back with their kids who have also seen these horrendous acts.
I mean, don't get me wrong, James, thank you for that. I know there's a problem. We all know there's a problem. But if I had to put a percentage on it, what percentage of Muslims in the UK are terrorists or likely to carry out terror attacks in the name of Islam? I think it would be reasonable to say it would be less than 1%. Would that be fair? I think it would be reasonable, which to have an entire political party dedicated to the less than 1%, I might even go less than 0.5%. To have an entire party dedicated to that tells me that your party isn't really about that issue. It's not about terrorism. It's about really a hate. Let's be honest, it's about a hatred of brown people, isn't it? It's about a hatred of Muslims. That's what it's about. People who don't like brown folk, people who don't like Muslims, people who suspect that every Muslim is probably a closet terrorist or at least a terrorist sympathiser. That's really what it's about. The kind of people that join those organisations are just that. And these tin pot groups like Britain First, which, frankly, I think are dangerous. I don't think they're useful. They're not inclusive within this debate. A lot of people say, "Oh, they're just telling the truth." Truth about what? Truth about what? What are they telling the truth about? Is it because, I mean, he mentioned Rotherham and the sex abuse scandal there. I think his view is misplaced, but I know what he means. Did that take Britain First to bring that story to the public arena? No. Did Britain First do anything to advance anything within that discussion? No, not at all. They might piggyback the story afterwards, say, this is the problem we've got. Look, that's what Muslims do. That's what they say. That's their line. That's what they do. They rape kids. That's the kind of thing that Britain First, as I see it, that's the sort of mood music that they are very relaxed about having out there. Now, if we have an organisation in a democracy, at the last election there were all sorts of groups. There was the Church of Elvis Party, there was the Teddy Bear Party, the Monster Raving Loony Party, Britain First. I don't mind all these crackpot organisations existing. It's a democracy. We're not in North Korea. I might be uncomfortable with some of it, but, you know, free speech and all the rest of it, even if it is uncomfortable. What I am uncomfortable about is the leader of the free world endorsing it. That should bother anybody. And if you want to have a cursory look at the kind of things Britain First stand for, the sort of people that are in Britain First, the CV, the roll call of illegality that many members have got under their belt, have a little look at that and tell me that you're comfortable with the President of the United States even going anywhere near an organisation such as that. John is in Doncaster. What are your thoughts, John? Hi.
Hello, Ian.
Hi. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts. Okay. Anjem Chowdhury.
Yep.
Does he speak for the entire of the Muslim community?
No.
No. Okay. Trump shares one video of what he believes to be a slightly hateful ideology with Islam. Various issues there. If you ask the moderate Muslim in the street, I guarantee you, do they agree with homosexuality? Do you know what they will say?
Go on.
No.
Okay.
The other response you'll get, is it natural? And you can't argue with that. No, it's not natural, but there's nothing wrong with it. The moderate Islamic worshipper will state this is not natural. Okay? Can these two men have children? No. Okay, it's not natural. Allah would not agree with this. Chuck them off a building. That is a moderate...
Hang on. I don't know any British Muslims that think chucking somebody off a building is the way to deal with homosexuality.
Maybe in a politically correct...
I'm aware that ISIS... I'm aware that's an ISIS thing, but you're correlating moderate British Muslims with ISIS, then.
But deep down, these thoughts would be shared.
Why would they be shared? So so let's take somebody like Tim Farron, the Lib Dem MP, who couldn't bring himself to acknowledge that gay sex is not a sin, and Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's against gay marriage. Do you think those guys want to throw gay people off buildings?
No, I don't.
So why would you want to think that a Muslim who might hold the same views as those guys on homosexuality, why would they want to throw Muslims off buildings, gay people off buildings?
These levels of physical torture are explained in the Quran.
And nothing like that you could find in the Bible?
The Bible is Christians and Catholics, they have modernized their beliefs, whereas Islam is...
So what you're saying is that every moderate Muslim, which were your words, is in fact an ISIS sympathiser. They're
not necessarily an ISIS sympathiser.
But the throwing gay people off buildings is sort of in the ISIS and Jem Chowdhury department.
They would uncategorically not agree with that sexuality. So.
Well, I'm not disputing that there are people who might not agree with homosexuality. I am disputing that all of those people think that the way to deal with that is to throw gay people off buildings.
I do not believe that all Muslims are predators. To an extent, I believe that all Muslims are a victim of Islam, because Islam has not moved into this century, and that ideology is still being taught, and it's being heavily...
But you mentioned moderate Muslims at the beginning of this. You said those words.
Correct.
So, are you suggesting that all moderate Muslims have a sympathy with ISIS?
It's a very deep topic. However,
Would it be fair to say, John? Would it be fair?
They would absolutely. They would say that this is wrong. But however, the deep thought and the teachings of the Quran would indicate that they would approve of this.
Do you know what? I'm listening to your voice now, and I'm thinking that I reckon you're probably a nice bloke. Would I also be right in saying that if you had to be brutally honest, just brutally honest, hand on heart, that you probably don't really know very much about what you're saying here?
Not necessarily.
Okay. It's just a suggestion. Thanks, John. 0345 6060 973. You can agree with his point if you want. I'm not quite sure where it was actually going. This from Jill. I'm fairly sure that, like my rather stupid sister-in-law, Donald Trump has no actual idea who Britain First are and what their aims are. I'm not defending him. He's a moron, says Jill. This from Brampton says, nope, the Russian investigation must be closing in as he's doing all he can to cause fires elsewhere and distract people. Wasn't he meant to be enforcing tougher sanctions on them, meaning Muslims? Who the heck knows what's going on? The fundamental point here, whatever you think about Islam, or religion for that matter, whatever you think about ISIS, whatever you think about moderate Muslims, whatever you think about Britain First, whatever you think about the roll call of doom from people like Jada Franson, who's the deputy leader, whatever you think about any of that, the fundamental question is, should the President of the United States be retweeting material from an organisation that is, by anybody's definition, a far-right organisation? 0345 6060 973. 10:30, news headlines come from Paul Smith.
The Prime Minister's spokesperson says Donald Trump's state visit to the UK still stands after saying he was wrong to share retweets from a far-right group. The US President shared anti-Muslim videos from the deputy leader of Britain First. The UN Security Council is holding an emergency meeting tonight after Pyongyang launched what it says its biggest missile yet. North Korea's ambassador to London has also been summoned to the Foreign Office over it. Police in Scotland have seized drugs worth more than £1 million in Glasgow. A man's been arrested after officers made the discovery in a car they stopped yesterday. LBC weather, windy night ahead for many places with a widespread frost. Showers in the north and along eastern and western coasts will fall as sleet and snow. Overnight lows of freezing.
This is LBC.
Alan receives an unexpected call, which is the worst type of call. A tenant is moving out today. Frantically, Alan checks the diary. He's not in there, which means no checkout, which means no new tenant. Why is property so hard to manage, he groans. Poor Alan needs the calming influence of Arthur, the life-changing property management platform that puts you at the centre and in control. Arthur Online. Start your free 30-day trial at arthuronline.co.uk.
The Nissan Navara Tecna is tough as always and smarter than ever. With a 3.5-ton towing capacity and a 1-ton plus payload. Class-leading fuel economy on manuals and up to 5-year warranty. All for £269 per month, excluding 20% VAT on business contract hire. The Nissan Navara Tecna. Business users only. £269 per month contract hire on Tecna grade manual. £1,616 advance rental. 10,000 miles per annum. Nissan finance subject to status. T's and C's apply. Ends 21st of the 12th, 2017. Participating dealers only. Nissan.co.uk.
Sky TV customers, bring the magic of Sky Cinema home this Christmas for just £10 a month. Cozy up in front of your favourite classics, like How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Yes! With over 1,000 movies on demand to watch whenever you want. And get a new premiere every day, like Kong, Skull Island.
That's a big one.
So, that's Sky Cinema for just £10 a month. Search Sky Cinema. New 18-month contract. Further terms apply.
Block management. 2 very simple words. But what do they actually mean? Well, there's budget approval for starters, then service charge invoices, health and safety paperwork, cleaning, gardening, maintenance, inspections, contracts, insurance, emergency call-outs, and a whole lot more besides.
So for complete block management solutions, just remember 3 simple letters. ABC. ABC Estates will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry. See abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
Come and experience Lebanese dining at Marouche Restaurants. Try some of our amazing dishes, kafta dipped in a delicious hummus, or a colourful meze, complemented by a robust Lebanese red. With live music and traditional belly dancing, enjoy an atmosphere to match the food's rich and distinctive flavours. Go to marouche.com to find out more. Marouche Restaurants, the finest Lebanese food across London.
Late Nights with Ian Collins on LBC.
It's kind of funny. There's nothing that will divide a room and a debate more than something like this. It is sort of off the scale when you get into this territory. Gary says, I think Trump is one of those people who impulsively acts first and asks questions later. He often tweets very early in the day when he's half awake. In this instance, I feel he was retweeting the essence of the material, but then again, perhaps he just saw Britain first, which resonated with him because of his American first narrative. I'm sure it was probably something like that. However, 12 hours later, it's still there. And he clearly knows. So his advisors would have said, Mr. President, you have retweeted something from what many people regard as a very nefarious, unpleasant, far-right organisation. You've retweeted it from a woman who has convictions for a conviction for religious hatred. There are others also within the group that you wouldn't wish to associate yourself with. The man that killed the MP Jo Cox shouted Britain first as he slaughtered her in the streets. Now, I don't know which part of all of that an American president should be associating themselves with. And if he didn't know for half a second, thought, oh, Britain first, that's probably something quite good. Bang, I'll retweet that. I might let that slide. I'm still a little unsure as to why a president would be tweeting out of context videos. You leave that to the sort of, to some of the more conspiracy theory boys, left and right for that matter. It's not an area you think, I want the leader of the free world to be going. I just don't think it makes him a very pleasant person. I'm all for the idea that you can have unconventional candidates in politics. And I think it's rather notionally quite healthy that once in a while, in the case of America, they went away from Capitol Hill and went for a businessman. How many times have I said it? When we've talked about who would you like ideally as Prime Minister, people have gone, we don't want a professional politician, we want somebody like... And people have actually said, we want somebody like Richard Branson, we want the head of Tesco, the bloke that runs M&S. That's the sort of person we want as Prime Minister. People who know how to run stuff, people who know how it works. Well, America got that. They got it in Donald Trump, so I get it. I get what they voted for it, that's what they have. But none of that means that everything is fair game. Just because he goes off-piste, just because he's unconventional, doesn't mean he's got a free rein to do anything. Doesn't mean he's beyond judgment just because he's a bit of a quirky weirdo on Capitol Hill. It doesn't mean that we can't, at a variety of levels and reasons, analyse, scrutinise, lampoon, cartoon, and absolutely criticise something he does. And I think this is an area where, as a president, he's crossed a line, he's gone into territory that you would not expect from an elected official or politician, least of all the President of the United States. I think it is that serious. It is that serious. And it tells me things about Donald Trump that I didn't think yesterday. Ali is in Marble Arch. What are your thoughts, Ali? Good evening.
Good evening. Hi. So I have lived in the U.S. for more than 10 years, and I've just moved to the U.K. And I was there when Donald Trump got elected. And my take on all of this is that you have to look at this from the lens of local American politics. So almost all the policies that this guy advocated for during his election have been stalled. So he said he's going to build a wall, on the Mexican border. That is not happening. He talked about repealing and replacing Obama healthcare plan. That is not going to happen. And he said, Obama couldn't contain North Korea, and the North Koreans just, released another missile. And he's helpless about it. So on the local political front, this guy has been a complete failure. And this is his diversion tactic to sort of divert attention from the failure on the local political level.
So you think he knows what he's doing when he tweets stuff like that?
Absolutely. He does that all the time. I mean, there's a long article in New York Times just today where they talk about his denial of the Access All Hollywood tape. If you remember, he got caught saying sort of sexist stuff. And he's denying that that's his voice. So this guy is just diverting attention locally.
But is he? What does he gain out of doing this? Because there's clearly the sort of trailer park mentality that love Trump for all of these reasons, and they will enjoy seeing him tweet this particular organisation. But most Americans, most Republicans I know, didn't want Donald Trump as their president. I don't know a single Republican that would be okay with this, a tweet such as this. I'm sure they exist, but I'm not aware of them. No one I know that is a Republican would endorse what Donald Trump has done here.
I must emphasize one point, which is that in the 11, 12 years that I lived in America, I did not witness a single episode of Islamophobia. I do not recall any such episode. Most Americans, 99.99%, are kind, just, generous, just like people here are.
Sure.
And while the election was happening, I lived in a blue state, a liberal, progressive, East Coast blue state. Even in that state, talking to ordinary people on the street, I could tell that Hillary was unpopular and Trump would win the election. So it wasn't about what this guy is saying. It was all about, creating jobs and his, plan for the economy. And so, that's what the white-collar voters voted for.
OK. Ali, great call. Thank you, sir, for that. Here's a bit of dead wood on email. Martin in London. What a stinking MS... It's already funny, isn't it? What a stinking mainstream media liberal hypocrite you are, Ian Collins. It gets better. Having a go at Trump when your mate, the leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, Well, this is where I should really stop reading, because if there's one area I get a fairly hefty mailbag on, it is my not particularly kind words about Jeremy Corbyn. Nonetheless, he says, Jeremy Corbyn praised Hamas and Hezbollah, invited homophobic, racist, anti-Semitic Muslim hate preachers to speak in the House of Commons with Ken Livingstone, invited members of the IRA to speak at events in the House of Commons. That's not quite true. Why don't you and the liberal mainstream media ever attack Corbyn and his lefty types? Hypocrites! There you go. I nearly did all that in one breath, because it was only worth one of my breaths. I was never going to use more than one breath on an email such as that. First thing, Martin, can I just say, punctuation. Punctuation, Martin. It's all over the place. You've got the odd comma in there, but it's not good. You clearly didn't hear my shows when I criticised Jeremy Corbyn over pretty much most of what you've just listed there. So there you go. 0345 6060973. Rhino says any leader who doesn't appease and pander to Islam is as fit as they come to be leader of the free world. Well, pandering to something, any organisation for that matter, is one thing. Insulting it and taking something out of context is quite another, though, isn't it? A Leeds fan says he was democratically elected in an election. Not by a Twitter poll. Yes, he's the strongest leader of the planet by an absolute mile. Makes May look like a wet tissue. Okay. Is he really the best leader on the planet? Most humble, that's for sure. Yeah. He's the best leader on the planet. I mean, come on. We've got loads of great leaders. Look at that fella in Kim Jong-un. I mean, there's him. He's great, isn't he? Do you know what I like about... Do you know what I'll be sad to see when Kim Jong-un has gone? That newsreader that pitches up every time to announce the missiles. I wonder what... Is she on minimum wage for that? She looks very, very happy, doesn't she, when she makes those announcements. I'm going to miss her. 0345 6060 973.
This is LBC.
In the heart of London, find their heart's desire. Discover the perfect present in the home of fine diamond jewellery.
Shine bright like a diamond.
It could only be Hatton Garden this Christmas.
Shine bright today. You and I are beautiful like diamonds in the sky.
Visit hattongarden.shop.
This year, will the fairy lights actually work first time? Will the Christmas tree hold its needles until, Christmas? Will the big day pass off without a big row? Will the roast potatoes be done at the same time as the turkey for once? This Christmas, you've got enough on your plate. But at least with a fixed price plan from TalkTalk, you don't need to worry about your bills going up. Our TV and fast broadband bundle is now just $27.50 a month, including line rental for the entire 18-month plan. Because peace of mind? It matters. TalkTalk. For everyone. TV box at £25. Terms and conditions apply.
To be honest, when I heard about this, I thought, you're having a laugh, aren't you? It's called the Smart Meter Power of 10p Challenge, where basically I had to feed as many bodybuilders as possible using just 10p of energy. No pressure then, guys.
Come on, Ainsley.
But after a manic cooking frenzy...
Stop! Your 10p's up!
I still managed to prepare an incredible 14 meals. Get in there, my son.
See how far 10p could go in your home. Contact your energy supplier about getting your smart meter at no extra cost.
We all love a Sunday roast, but we don't always have time to rustle one up midweek. Or do we? Our new Bisto Best ready-to-use gravy pouch is made with real meat juices for that authentic, rich roasted flavour. Simply heat and pour for the best chicken roast dinner on a Wednesday. Bisto.
Is your company thinking of moving office? If so, this could be the perfect opportunity to revolutionise your business, transform your workplace, and inspire your staff. Speak to Maris Interiors, who've been designing and fitting out workplaces for over 3 decades. Book your free consultation, attend a free seminar, or get your free guidebook. Go to officerelocation.co.uk. Maris. Workplace design experts.
Do you feel as if you never get enough sleep?
Hamsey Sleep Centres have the answer. Buy a new mattress from our promotional range today and we'll give you up to £100 trade-in on your old one. And up to £200 off your new one, free local delivery, free mattress protector and a free pair of pillows. Plus a full 10-year guarantee. We'll even give you a 100-night sleep trial. Hamsey's, Beckenham, Bexley Heath, Leatherhead, New Malden and Wallington. And at hamseys.co.uk.
Late Nights with Ian Collins on LBC.
I've just Googled her. Her name is Ri Chun-hee. She is she's been reading news in North Korea since 1971. Wow. That's longer than Angela Rippon. She is kind of, I guess she's the North Korean Rippon. That was almost poetic, wasn't it? You could definitely get some kind of vague rap out of that. But she does, with great enthusiasm and gusto, like to announce her leader's missile attacks. So there's him. We were talking about strong leaders. Is he a strong leader? I don't think so. Donald Trump tells it like it is. Does that make him a great leader? Because he's very different. He's unconventional. I think he's rude. I think he's ignorant. I think he's not I think he's crass. I think he's crude. I don't think he has a business intelligence, and he only has a business intelligence. He doesn't have any emotional intelligence. He wouldn't be the only leader, by the way, that doesn't have some of that. But I don't think as a package. And the Obama thing, I was never seduced by the cult of Obama either. You know, the man had a PhD in drone attacks on Lord knows what. Obama could hardly get out of bed in the morning unless he bombed something. But we didn't talk about it in the same way. He almost made George Bush look like a bit of an amateur in some respects. So I wouldn't join him with that either. Donald Trump, however, I just don't think he's particularly pleasant. I just don't think he's particularly good at it. I think he's a chancer. I think he's a guy that's sort of lucked in. He's clearly got a business brain. Good luck on the hotels and all the rest of it, unless you've been watching that documentary about the kind of way his business began to form through his old man and the tax breaks. And man alive, it's just extraordinary. He's not alone in that, by the way. He's not the only businessman that did well out of multi-million dollar tax breaks in order to get something built. So essentially you build something massive and big, but you just don't really pay for it yourself. Almost somebody else does. Don't go away, Jake. With you in just a second. This is Harry who's over here. What are your thoughts, Harry, in Nottingham? Hi.
Hi, Ian. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. What are your thoughts?
Oh, good evening. I hope you're well.
Yeah.
So, what I've seen today is Donald Trump retweeting actual footage of a country imposed by the grasps of Sharia law, and now everyone's outraged at him in a very abrupt manner, as opposed to being outraged at the disgusting medieval ideology that actually is Sharia law. Okay, just let that sink in for a second.
Well, I think we're already outraged by that. We've done Lord knows how many debates on what ISIS do and get up to. We kind of know that. That's a given.
Okay, this goes a little deeper. So that's our politicians. It's European politicians. Obviously, Guy Verhofstadt was first to jump the gun. So I'd like to know who actually benefits from this left-wing, supposedly liberal agenda. Well, I say liberal. It's liberals that are first to condemn this type of behaviour. Yet liberal ideology says that debate is necessary in society. And this is Trump essentially sparking debate, isn't it?
Is he? Do you think that? I mean, it's completely out of context. There's no comment in it. I don't think he could get away with your definition of what he's done.
This actually justifies it. It seems if the right want to be noticed, without simply being swept under the carpet, as it were, then they must use this type of media and trigger words and things like that.
But those sort of videos appear in the Daily Mail on a regular basis. We discuss precisely that kind of thing.
Okay.
In fact, there's one in there today of ISIS chopping off somebody's arms. Actually, on the same day. It's not hidden from mainstream media, the shenanigans of ISIS.
Yes, but why aren't liberal politicians looking at it? Why aren't they looking
Well, they are. We're at war with it, mate.
Are we?
Yeah.
Let's look
the Prime Minister's just come back from Iraq, for goodness sake.
Yeah, so but why are they outraged? Why are they outraged by the fact somebody is sharing something that's clearly happening in the world? And why
that's not... I don't believe that is the interpretation that most people would put on what Trump did.
Right.
I don't think Trump is saying... Trump isn't saying, he's not writing, look, this is what goes on with ISIS, this is the kind of ideology we need to stamp out. What he's doing is retweeting an out-of-context video from a far-right organisation who just hate Muslims.
Ooh, it's far right. Oh, yeah. Everything's far right.
No, I agree with you. I hate the term when it's used incorrectly, but I don't think to call Britain First far right in the kind of Western political spectrum sense is inaccurate.
Right. I'd like to just look at something. Let's look at the American Constitution for a second.
Yeah.
So now, if we go back to the origins of liberalism, we know John Locke and Western philosophers, and they state that this is very much the idea across the board. Everybody is free to own their own body, owes nothing to society, and free to pursue happiness. This is written into the American Constitution, isn't it?
Okay, yeah.
Very Lockean, is it not? So maybe Trump is actually defending these ideals.
You think Trump reads John Locke?
Well, perhaps he knows, perhaps he doesn't. But at the end of the day, it's an ideal that's in the Constitution. Yeah. And then, furthermore, so I have a growing concern that free speech is being silenced and thus has been heavily devalued over recent years. It seems to me that corporations own media and lobbyists that form the public opinion, not just the public, but also the opinion of politicians.
Yeah.
So the bottom of line, that's it. That's how.
So you think? So let me just to summarise this, Harry. You believe that Donald Trump was attempting to start an intelligent debate based on misplaced Quranic instruction from ISIS?
No, probably not. But it has triggered a debate, and that's what's important and crucial. And I think
it's triggered a debate about the office of president, hasn't it, really?
But why should it? Why should it?
Because, look, if it was tweeted by Marty Funkwarbler from Illinois, then nobody would give a hoot. But it's the President of the United States.
So what does it matter what his conduct is when we need to look at the actual issue, which is Sharia law compatible with Western society? I can already hear the chorus of execration.
But I don't know many people who would say it is.
How dare I stir up feelings? To quote Enoch Powell there for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been silent.
I promise you, Harry, with respect, you haven't been that persuasive. But I take the point that you're trying to make. I just don't think that's what Donald Trump was doing. But thank you. Let's go to Jake in Brighton. Jake, hello.
Hello, Ian. Hi. Yeah, I just want to sort of the call that you had before. The guy you just the last call was pretty good, by the way, but in a sense. But Trump reading John Locke, that's quite funny. But the call that was in the United States. I mean, you've got to remember there are less Muslims in the United States as a demographic, as a whole, as a community. So the chances of Islamophobia being experienced out there are quite less than over here in the UK. And I think Trump knows that, obviously. And with Britain First. I mean, as I said, I think I echo a lot of what you say in terms of his rhetoric and everything germane to that. And he hasn't implemented any of the policies that he said he was going to do. Not one of them. And his advisors aren't silly, and they are whipping up hysteria. But I think it's important to remember that Britain First, when they go into these Muslim areas with the cross and this, that, and the rest of it, my thing about that with Britain First is most of them wouldn't be able to recite the Beatitudes. Most of them don't know even, they might know the history of the Judeo-Christian religions and Judaism and Islam and all the rest, but they don't know that it might have been syncretized from ancient Egypt and from the other religions in the Fertile Crescent at that point. And, if they knew that, I don't think they'd even carry the cross. And I don't think the same with the Judaism and Islam, but that's a separate point. Trump was whipping up rhetoric. He is stirring up hate by doing this.
Do you know what, Jake? I'd even give him the benefit of the doubt in suggesting he might not have realised when he retweeted it what or where it had come from. He just retweeted it. I mean, he retweeted something the other day, didn't he, from a British guy who said something outrageously offensive against Donald Trump. I can't remember what it was. And Trump just retweeted it, didn't realise he had. So retweeting something initially and making a mistake is possible, but once he'd realised what he'd retweeted, then I would have thought somebody in that position should have deleted it.
The only thing is, if you look at how he got elected, and some of the convincing sort of arguments that he used in terms of whipping up the disillusioned at that time, the working class American and some of the other people that felt that at that time He was in his campaigns and in his talks saying to people, sort of inciting violence. And,
well, some people... I mean, I defended his right to pick up an uncomfortable agenda. I defended his right to talk about things that, many presidents hadn't talked about. And also, more curiously, Jake, as I'm sure you know, he often talked about things that lots of other presidents had talked about, but did so in a slightly different manner that didn't get them the same kind of criticism. But I think this takes it elsewhere. Jake, we hit the clock, but thank you for that. This comes from Joe, who says all that Trump is guilty of is broadcasting videos of some Muslims doing things that some Muslims do undoubtedly do. You seem to be getting into knots trying to avoid this inconvenient fact by concentrating on the politics of the organisation that first tweeted them. I don't think you can really divorce the politics of that, and I think the first point's been addressed a ton of times in this hour. And Rory says, certainly no lefty even liked how Trump mixed up the establishment, but increasingly doing things that demean the office of president. Not good enough. Thank you, Rory, for that. We move into different territory. In one UK city, 1 in 10 families are relying on charity handouts to eat, and food banks are facing unprecedented strain in the run-up to Christmas. But have food banks helped solve a problem, or do they, in a curious way, help create it? That's next.
On FM, online, on your mobile, and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, the White House insists Donald Trump was trying to highlight the need for national security when he retweeted far-right videos. The US president shared 3 posts by the deputy leader of Britain First. Downing Street says he was wrong to do it. Journalist and TV presenter Piers Morgan has told LBC Donald Trump's gone too far.
To me, it's completely beyond the pale. Donald Trump has to undo these retweets. He has to issue a fulsome public apology, and I'm hoping it says that he had no idea who Britain First really are.
The UN Security Council is currently discussing how best to deal with the threat from North Korea. It's after the rogue state launched an intercontinental ballistic missile which landed in Japan's waters yesterday. Matthew Rycroft is the UK ambassador to the UN.
The latest violation demonstrates once more North Korea's disregard for our collective security and the international obligations that all of us, as law-abiding states, take upon ourselves.
Theresa May is denying a deal's been agreed on how much money the UK will give to the EU for Brexit. It's been reported the total will be between £40 and £50 billion. Lawyers acting for a man who's in prison for 2 murders claim serial killer Levi Belfield has confessed to them in detail. Michael Stone has been convicted twice over the deaths of a mother and her daughter in Kent in 1996. His legal team claims to have a confession from Belfield, who murdered Millie Dowler, and new forensic evidence. Stone's sister Barbara says it offers new hope.
I'd like to think that this will go to the Court of Appeal. They'll hear the evidence and that Mick will be released, and then maybe we'll hit our retirement years and we'll be able to live in peace.
And some breaking news just coming into us here at LBC regarding North Korea. US Ambassador Nikki Haley has told the United Nations that North Korea's missile launch brings us closer to war that the United States does not seek. We'll bring you more on that soon. Uber's told its customers that those affected by a data breach will be contacted as soon as possible. 2.7 million people are thought to have been affected. Hackers obtained names, email addresses and phone numbers last year. Football, and Sam Allardyce watched on at Goodison Park as Everton took a 4-0 Premier League win over West Ham. The former England boss is about to take over at the club. Elsewhere, leaders Manchester City scored late in stoppage time to beat Southampton 2-1. LBC weather, a windy night ahead with a widespread frost for many. Showers in the north and along eastern and western coasts. They'll fall as sleet and snow. Overnight lows of freezing. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Paul Smith.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Ian Collins.
Leading Britain's conversation, 0345 6060 In the tricky third hour, by the way, I want to talk about something that Sadiq Khan, he's the mayor down in London, He's going to relax planning rules in order to build more houses. So one of the whole problems or the issues around planning, of course, is the rules protecting local character. And he will lift some of those so that the suburbs, not just the sort of centre of London, but the suburbs around the capital, will be able to build more houses. A big increase in house building, he says. The issue I have with this is that that's fine until you need to build more homes. Because if you come back in 5 years' time, whoever the mayor is of London, or any other city for that matter, in 5 years' time will be faced, I believe, with the same problem. And there's a reason for that. We have a growing and increasing population. We have people living longer. We have predictions that will take us to 70 million. I'll bring you the chronology on that, but the predictions that we talked about just a couple of weeks ago. Growing population crisis or a housing crisis? Which one do we have? We'll look at that one a little later on. I want to talk about this as well in the run-up to Christmas. 1 in 10 families in London are relying on charity handouts to eat, and food banks are facing unprecedented strain in the run-up to Christmas. 1 in 4 parents worry about being able to afford to feed their children, according to the research, whilst 1 in 5 have chosen between heating their homes and feeding their family. This was a poll conducted by Kellogg's to mark the start of a Help a Hungry Child campaign, exposing the devastating choices parents face around the country as food banks struggle to keep up with growing demand. At least 147,000 3-a-day emergency parcels were handed out by the Trussell Trust food banks in December last year, which was a 47% spike compared to the average overall 2016-27 financial year. According to the charity, children accounted to 61,000 of those affected. Now the charity is warning that 2017 could herald an even higher increase. Whose fault is that? 0345 6060 973. Whose fault is that? If you have groups of people, and bearing in mind, was it Queen Victoria who said the poor are always with us? I've cited this before. It's a kind of a little like we got into a muddle, didn't we, about Dr. Johnson or Winston Churchill quotations earlier in the week. The poor are always with us. There have always been groups of people, of course, who can't make ends meet. There's always been groups of people who've had to choose between heating and eating. There have always been groups of people who will struggle to feed their children, who will have the necessary supplies to have a life that you would suggest would be reasonable in a Western democracy like the UK in the 21st century. The question, and it gets political whether we like it or not, is where does the fault for that problem lie? Politically, of course, if you're a member of the Labour Party, it's all the wicked Tories' fault. Now, when I was a kid, we grew up in a house that really didn't have very much at all, and if food banks existed, we would have been in that queue. There is absolutely no doubt about it. We didn't have that option. Somehow, you made it happen. I shudder to think of meals that my mum or dad might have missed. Never really thought about that too much until relatively recently, when these kind of subjects come up. But there was no real assistance, and my dad being self-employed as well put him in a kind of an additional tricky place, which was that you couldn't just kind of sign on, because you might have a week out of work, and during that week it was tricky to then try and claim any sort of welfare. He was mostly always in work, but frankly his wages were rubbish. You know, he was a painter and decorator, and work didn't pay particularly well. It was the lowest end